All right, it's time to talk with our featured guest, Dr. Milca Mendez-Ceballos. Milca, how's it going?
It's going great. We just finished a little bit of a crazy week with some snow. Had our first snow day as Pawsitive Pediatric Dentistry, but it worked out. I'm very grateful. Tired, but grateful.
Yeah. Where are you located at?
Ephrata, Pennsylvania. So for anyone who's ever played Monopoly, the Reading Railroad, first railroad after you pass go, is my hometown, and I'm about 18 to 20 minutes from there.
Okay. So are you guys hit with that vortex of like the cold front and all that stuff?
Yes. And tomorrow I hear we're getting more snow, but our clinic is closed. So that'll be a little easier to navigate. Won't have to reschedule friends and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. So today, did you have to do that or no?
Today we didn't, but on Tuesday we did. And it was hard to say how much snow was truly going to come down. And since I'm about 18 to 20 minutes away from the office, I went based off of the school district and then kind of hoped it was the right call, and ended up being the right call because it was a lot. But in the moment, I was like, well, what's best for my team and for my patients, even though as a new office, you don't want to close, but sometimes it's what's best.
Yeah. No, I get you. So then rewind a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your past, your present. How'd you get to where you are today?
So I never thought that I was going to own an office. That was not in the cards for me. I love nerding out and reading a journal article by the pool. So I thought my future was in academics. And hey, maybe at some point it still will be. But I finished residency very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to go to my hometown and maybe be the change in corporate dentistry. And just wasn't for me. I don't regret it because it taught me a lot of what I want and what I don't want. And it was a little bit of like trial by fire. And I learned a lot. So that catalyzed like, okay, I'm opening an office, because when I looked at where I wanted to live and work and the lifestyle I'd want for my current and future family, it all aligned with being in the type of office that was maybe not an option for me at the time. So I decided to create it. And since then, so I'd made that decision December of 2021. And then we just opened our doors December 4th, 2023. So it's been a little bit of a journey.
Wait, December 2021? 100%? Or in your mind, were you like,
no, it was 100%, but I couldn't tell a lot of people. So because with like non-competes and where I was currently working, so when I would talk to vendors and things like that, I would say I'm thinking of opening an office, because like I hadn't really articulated the decision in my head out loud to very many people other than my husband and my parents. So then after a while, I was like, okay, I need to stop telling them I'm thinking about it, because I'm actually doing this.
Yeah. Was it easy to tell your employer this, or not really?
I did not. So I ended up leaving the office I was in at the time that summer, and I never told them. They found out, I guess, maybe when the rest of the world found out. I never let them know.
And was it corporate or no?
It was. Yeah.
Okay. So rewind a little bit. You didn't ever want to own an office. So you never saw yourself as a like practice owner or business owner. So just as a educational, what was your future in academics? What were you thinking of?
Yeah, I love preventative dentistry. And I think that's one of the reasons that like led me down to being a pediatric dentist. So my like passions of dentistry involve education, which goes hand in hand with prevention, because you're educating the child or the parent. So those two things really drew me to pediatric dentistry. And I just felt like, well, when I'm looking at like new materials, I want to make sure that I'm using what's best. And maybe other dentists also feel that way, but I just felt like because those were my passions, they were best channeled in academics. And I just didn't have an example maybe of someone who I felt similarly or could like see myself through or with that had a private practice. I felt like a lot of the people who came and talked to us during dental school that were like the private practice would talk all numbers. And for me, like the business of dentistry is something that was part of dentistry, but not at all why. It's not like I was looking necessarily to be my own boss at that time. I was like, I can be a team player just for the right team. And I'm sure the right team is out there. I'll find them. But if you want to live in a specific location due to family or whatever the circumstance is, then maybe that right team isn't looking for more team players. And sometimes you do have to create your own.
Yeah. So you wanted to be in Pennsylvania. Like you guys were like,
I did. Yeah, at least. So my husband and I, we've been married since I was an undergrad. And at some point, we know that we want to have children and we built a house. So we wanted to be near family. And that kind of limited a little bit our options in terms of location.
Okay. So you were specifically there. And then we fast forward a little bit. You went into corporate dentistry thinking this was it. You're going to change it. Well,
yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I think sometimes corporate dentistry, maybe I feel like some patients are starting to be maybe more aware of this, but as a dentist, the stigma is that maybe you don't have as much control. Patients don't get as much time as you would like, and it's high volume. And I said, well, maybe we can switch things up. This is my community. I can, just try to advocate for them if needed. If it's an appropriate pace, then great. This will help me get faster because in residency, you have longer appointment time. So okay, let's do it. Let's serve the community. I'm ready to go. But it's hard because with a certain amount of volume, you almost have to treat every child or every appointment the same. And as we all know, we're not all the same. Just like historically education, everyone was treated the same. And now we're learning that there's different type of learners and maybe there has to be a different approach to a curriculum. So I would say the same happens sometimes in pediatric dentistry. And that's just my practice style. Everyone practices different, but I like to be able to have the control to tweak an appointment for that given child. And that's really hard in a corporate setting. So no fault to them. It's just really hard to do if you're seeing a lot of people.
When was the last straw for you mentally? Not like you're walking out, but you're just like, no, forget you guys.
I just felt like I'm not a complainer by nature. So if I was a cartoon character, I'd be Princess Poppy from Trolls. So like the world is crumbling and I'm like, it's okay. Let's just hug. It's fine.
We should just hug. But what would it be?
So my last straw, I think, was when I felt like I was raising maybe certain like concerns and it just didn't align with their vision, which I get. So I was just like, okay, well, if they can't make these changes, then the one thing I can control is where I work. So then that's when I decided to approach things differently.
What were the concerns?
I just wanted to be able to provide more time when needed, especially with patients with special healthcare needs. But again, it's really hard because with being a larger company, sometimes the people who make the decisions just aren't the ones that are seeing the outcomes. And I get it. And everyone has their own vision and mission, and ours just didn't align.
Gotcha. So then that's when you decided to head out.
I did. And I was lucky that I found a private practice that though I had to commute like an hour and 10 minutes without traffic or weather, they did align with my practice philosophy. So when I left that summer, that's where I was until the end of the year. And I learned a lot from that because I was like, okay, there are people that maybe think similarly to me. It can be done.
Why did you not stick with them and say, we're going to do this together, we're going to grow this? And
well, I think that once you open like Pandora's box, so to speak, of the startup journey or having your own practice, you get very invested in what your vision is. And you start noticing not things that are wrong with other offices, just that maybe don't align as clearly. And then you realize that you may have to sacrifice. And then you have to really decide within yourself, like, what are your non-negotiables? And for me, one of those was I wanted to be near family and I wanted to be in a town that had a big sense of community. So the commute ultimately was my biggest con and I wasn't really willing to move, but that didn't change my plan.
Okay. So then besides the commute and then besides the sense of community, because you are an hour away, you know what I mean? What did you
Over an hour away.
Yeah, over an hour away, yeah. So are you the type of person who, if you're in your, 11 at night, walking in Target and you're like, PJs, getting ice cream, a patient sees you, would you be like, oh my gosh, hey? Or would you be like, oh God, there's a patient?
So I would definitely, again, Princess Poppy would be like, oh my gosh, hey. But because I'm 18 minutes from the office, that doesn't really happen. So I can like go out in the middle of the night if I need to grab ice cream in that
Yeah.
example, and I would be okay. But if I ran into someone, I would definitely then get excited. Once I got back into my car and realized, oh no, I was wearing slippers, then maybe I would be embarrassed. But in the moment, like my golden retriever attitude doesn't let me think about it.
Okay, so then for you then, what
Yeah.
didn't align in that office where it was just systems or anything? And then what did work for you where you're like, I like what you guys are doing. I'm going to take it and use it in my office.
I think they're looking to continue growing. And I realized that I want more of maybe a more traditional feel in the sense of like traditionally dentistry is like one office, there's 1 to 2 doctors. They would just put up a shingle and do the thing. And I love that. My vision is not to grow as big as possible and have multiple offices. And again, maybe in a couple of years that may change. I give myself that grace, but as of now, that's not my vision. So that would be something that was different. And then things that I loved how I felt like the team had more work-life balance and they had a lot of support from the administrative team as well, which I felt like was lacking more in my first role or my first job.
How did they have more support with the administrative?
They had a lot of like 401k, disability, travel reimbursement, like a lot of grace with hours and knowing like, okay, well, yesterday was a really hard day. How can we even it out today? I was like, I like that because I think things that are pros of maybe like corporate America and corporate dentistry is that there's a nice infrastructure that you can always like fall back on and everyone kind of knows what to expect. And I like that. I love structure and predictability. But sometimes the cons is that maybe it's not as personal. So I was able to see the balance of structure while yet being personal.
Okay, that's different. Well, I like it. How are you doing that in your practice? What type of structure do you have and how are you making it personable for your, I guess, employees?
Yeah, I'm trying to every day. I feel like I'm always like trying to build on it. But we have like standard operating procedures and I've tried to be strict with grace from the beginning because I want to make sure that everyone who's onboarded right now, I only have 2 team members, but we will be growing. So I want to make sure everyone's onboarded the same. Everyone has the same experience in terms of, yay, you're a team member. This is what our welcome to the team packet looks like in terms of materials, but then also I love good office swag. So that has to be thrown in there. And so forth. And in terms of making it personal, we do weekly meetings and then monthly meetings. Our weekly ones are much shorter now that we've been open. And then my monthly ones kind of are more like, what is their vision for themselves in the office, maybe professionally, and how I can help them better achieve those goals, as well as my vision for them in terms of like 30, 60, 90 yearly goals.
Okay. So then you're onboarding.
Yeah.
Besides the packet, right, and the swag, what does that look like step by step?
Yeah. So I'm working with, I guess I can give them a shout out, HR for Health. And they've been amazing because I have never run payroll before. I have never, until now, I've never done an employee handbook, making sure that it's compliant with my state guidelines and all of that. So they were able to help me throughout that whole process and really explain everything to me. So in terms of onboarding, first thing that happens is they get a link. They collect all the necessary documentation in a nice folder that I can have. I can put any licenses there, things like that. So that's all nice and organized. And then in terms of if they want to do direct deposit, all of that. And then I can do the onboarding in the office with the welcome packet, goes over why I opened the office. It goes over what their role is, what to expect, what our culture is, our core values, and how we can show up and show those like core values throughout the day. And then the swag.
So it's good. It's good then. Now,
yeah, it's been great.
If we transition a little bit, talking about your location, you grew up there or how'd you find it?
I grew up about 20 minutes from here.
Okay, so this place has always been on your radar or what?
Yeah, it has been on my radar, but I didn't know if I would open here or closer to home in that 20 minutes. And kind of the scenario you gave of like, hey, if I was in the middle of the night or 8 o'clock at night, go to grab like ice cream or a bottle of wine, Who do I want to run into? So weighing those kinds of things out. Plus, I was working out some non-competes, which I'm still working out from where I worked in a couple of different directions. This was the perfect storm. And they have a great sense of community, was so important to me. I love small town USA. I'm not a city girl. So I love just like small town community parades and seeing the fire trucks go by. And
have you ever seen, super going off left field here, but have you ever seen a show called Sweet Magnolias?
Yeah, I love it. And like Gilmore Girls.
Yes, like
that's my vibe.
So like my wife watches it, but I'm on the side like watching this, but then I'm watching it and I'm like, what happened to Rory? Why is she doing that? Why is she being But anyways.
My husband does that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you watching or not? And he's like, I'm not. I'm like, okay.
So that's the vibe you like. That's what you're looking for.
I love that. Yeah.
Okay. So the non-compete, I believe you said that they didn't know that you were going to open a practice until...
They didn't. So yeah, I just had a non-compete from the beginning, and I should have listened maybe to the advice. Well, no, everything happens for a reason, and I'm happy it worked out. But an advice that I was given in dental school is, if you know you may want to work someday in your hometown, don't take your first job in your hometown so that you don't like block yourself out of working there. But because I was going to be the change, I was like, fine. And then I'm going to go to academics, and there's no dental school near here. So my plan was to be there until my future children were in school. I have long-term planning issues. And then life throws curveballs and I have to adjust.
Okay. So that's how the non-compete kind of came in.
Yeah. They're built into every contract. So it just happened that mine blocked me out of a certain area, which again, I really think it was, everything happened for a reason. It was the perfect storm.
Okay. Now, could you briefly introduce your dental practice and the demographic you primarily serve?
Yes. So we are Pawsitive Pediatric Dentistry, and our slogan is "Where little smiles smile big." And the positive part is spelled PAW because our first employee ever is a furry golden doodle.
Nice. Okay.
She's our mascot. And then we don't have like a cavity-free wall. I don't want kids to feel shame and if they have a cavity. So we plan to have like a brag board about service and like what's something kind you did in your community or with your family. So it's going to be called Positive Action in the World. So that's another play on the paw portion of positive. Our demographic is mostly, I would say, middle class to upper middle class. I would say more blue collar families. We are near Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So there is some Amish population near us, Mennonite families. There are some factories. There's a lot of agriculture, a lot of farms, very much that Gilmore Girl, Sweet Magnolia feel, small community. Chamber of Commerce is amazing. So I'm so grateful. Everyone has been so welcoming. Yeah, I'm just, so far I'm really tired, but in like a state of bliss.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. So then you are right now mainly serving, I mean, it's pediatrics, right? That's all you're going to be doing the whole time. Okay. And then, I thought that was interesting. The positive, right? The play on words, and then the positive outlook, or what'd you say for the board?
Action in the world.
It's true because, you teach kids kindness, and kindness just is like a way to show that they matter, show that someone else matters, right? If they keep spreading it. So I like that a lot too. Now, what has been your experience with different marketing companies or different marketing approaches? Like which strategies have proven to be the most effective? Which ones do you feel like do not work in a town like this? Yeah.
So ground marketing, I try to apply everything that you say, but you have so much content that I really can't apply it all the time. I'm like, oh no, I fell behind. But ground marketing has been great. I joined the Chamber of Commerce, and even like the most like serendipitous connections somehow will bring a patient through our doors. So I'm very grateful for that. I would say also like attracts like. So I really value companies that share their story. I know a little bit about them, why they're doing what they're doing, and maybe where some of the funds go to and if they give back. So because I'm drawn to that type of market, I've tried to kind of share our story too, even before we opened. So July 1st, I went live to tell everyone because I had told some of my employers that, hey, starting July, I'm going to let people know. So I wanted to honor that. So once July came, I did the thing. And I've been trying to share our story on YouTube. Now, my niece does remind me that I haven't been as consistent lately and I'm going to lose my subscribers. But we have gotten some patience with YouTube and a lot of Instagram as well. But ground marketing and Chamber of Commerce, I would say, is next. I am working with Wondrous, and we recently started some SEO, but I'm learning all things SEO. It's a whole new world to me. And I've been told it takes about 3 months to really see how it's working and what it's doing. So to be determined there.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of really depends on like your location, how like saturated it is, right?
Yeah.
With SEO. But when it comes to the YouTube, and Instagram, what specifically are you Like, are you posting like a series, like story one, this is opening, and then, or how does it look?
I wanted to do a series, but I feel like there's so many things to do all the time. I think the one I've been the most consistent with is called Framework Friday. And that is the one that in the beginning was a lot about construction. But now that we're open, I'm hoping that I can talk more about like our core values and action and just like maybe a broader term of the word framework, not just the frame of a building, but like the inner workings of the office.
So you're showing people like behind the scenes of what's happening on in your practice kind of thing, or?
That was kind of when before we opened, yes. And now I'm trying to include like if we go to a school or if we do a service project that we have some dates scheduled for, I want to include some video of that. Just showing like, okay, yeah, we get it. You're a dental office, you do dental things, but maybe what are some of the things that people don't realize that we also do is the idea.
Okay. Is this stuff in on your website too or no?
I guess our YouTube is not on our website. On our website, you can see like if you scroll to the bottom, it shows a little bit of like our Instagram almost. It like bleeds into it.
Yeah.
And I do use sometimes like repurpose AI.io. I forget what it's called. And basically I can take content from one platform and share it across the rest. So sometimes if I know I need to put content out and I'm feeling a little lazy, I just take one video and share it across. So some of our YouTube videos are on Instagram when I've just repurposed with the context.
Okay, interesting. Now, I know you mentioned Wondrous. So how much do you typically allocate for your marketing activities?
Yeah, right now, monthly, it's about $1,200.
Okay. And that's with like the website and everything? Like, how much initially was it like your website?
The website initially, I want to say was $7,000.
Okay. So like 7, then plus like a 1,000 something retainer fee. Okay.
SEO, but yeah.
So then you've been open for like a month. And this is a huge question, Milca. Everybody always asks, like, when am I going to break even? Right? Like,
oh, that's a great question.
When does it look like? So I wanted to ask you, for you, when did you start, I guess, seeing, because I don't know if you're breaking even or not, or you can let us know if you are, but
yeah, I can. Not yet.
Okay. You're like super quick. When did you start seeing like profits, income, like, you know what I mean? Start coming in, and how quick was that?
Yeah. So with insurances, some insurances will tell you like, we'll pay you anywhere from like 10 days to 10 weeks, which is so lovely. There's some patients that we saw last month that we're finally starting to see the like pickup of that. I also have an in-house membership plan, and that has helped us have like be able to see like long-term more like, okay, we're going to have some steady income these coming months as well. We're not breaking even yet. My goal is by month 3.
By month 3.
That's my goal.
Okay. And your membership plan, is it like you created it yourself, or?
I'm working with Clear to do that. Yeah.
Is that allocated in your marketing budget, or that's a whole separate?
So to start it, I just had to pay, trying to remember, it was a small quantity, under $50. And then I pay them a fee per patient that signs up. So I net positive, if that makes sense. So I don't have it allocated right now as part of my marketing, but I probably should.
Okay. And then with this whole Did you get a loan or did you go with a specific bank or you already had savings or how did that go?
Yeah, no, I got a loan and it was with Bank of America. I did talk to a couple banks and kind of had them talk to or compete with each other, so to speak, which I recommend because I feel like it helps sweeten the deal. And I signed the initial loan, let's see if I remember, March or April of 2022, but I didn't have a space yet. And it took a while to sign our lease. So we had to do several extensions because I signed the lease then like the last day of January of 2020. So it was like almost a year between first getting approved for the loan and then signing the lease.
How much was the loan for?
$795.
Okay. And so were you able to use it all like the way you wanted to, or they were telling you kind of like, okay, you're going to get a little portion of this, portion of that?
No, the person who I'd have to have like my calls with, he was so kind. When I finished, I was like, I'm really going to miss you. He was so helpful. I'm like, yeah, Bradley from Bank of America. What a guy. So sweet. I like emailed Bank of America and I was like, hey, I don't know what he does on the day to day, but give this guy a shout out, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very kind. No, he was very helpful. If we needed to reallocate funds, so let's say like my contractor was like, oh, actually, we need like $5,000 more, but like IT was $5,000 less. Then he'd be like, okay, let's just like reallocate it. Give me like a couple hours. I'll send you like an approval through the portal, just write approved and we're good to go. And he was just so fast. Sometimes I would send something on like a Friday at 4:30 and he'd have it done before 5. Like it was great. Vendors and companies would get their funds very quickly, which everybody loves. I hate to be the limiting factor. So that really helped things go smoothly because we started our build out the like last week of June, and then we got certificate of occupancy October 30th. It was pretty fast turnaround.
Yeah, that is interesting. Okay, so thinking of Bank of America, Bradley, thinking of all the Wondrous, all these companies, what have been some of the best companies you worked with and some of the worst companies, or maybe ones that just didn't work well with you?
Yeah, I would say the majority of the companies that I have worked with, I have been pleasantly surprised with because you always feel like, is this too good to be true? But I've learned to trust my research and my gut throughout this project. So I'll do my research on all companies and then I'm like, okay, what's my gut saying? And I try to lean into it because sometimes on paper, two companies may look similar, but one maybe is more your communication style. So I would have to say, number one, my consultant, I'm so grateful for them because they really introduced me to a lot of other people. And that helped a lot, especially because you can only research so many hours of the day while you're also working as an associate dentist. So Ideal Practices is who I worked with, and they were great. I'm very happy also with the technology in the office and the TVs on the ceilings and how everything talks to each other. And that was Darkhorse Tech. So super grateful for them. They didn't give me like a cookie cutter option. Like some other tech companies tried to say like A, B, or C. And these are the computers you must have. And this is what you must do. And they were super flexible. So if I said, hey, I have some of the equipment already, can I use that? They really compared it with what they recommended and then gave me kind of like a shopping list. So that was really nice.
Kind of like a la carte?
A little bit, yeah. I would say as a la carte as I could find, which is what I was looking for.
Yeah. Would you say they're reasonable though, like with their pricing and everything, or compared to how many people did you really like compare them with?
So I reached out to some local people and they weren't as responsive as I'd like, which is like red flag because with your IT company, you hope you never have to call them with an emergency. But if you do, you want them to be responsive. So it's like at the front end, if you're not responsive, like, so some of those people didn't go far enough down the process for me to really like consider seriously. So I would say seriously like 3 companies, and they were the most flexible, the best with response time, and the least cookie cutter like with their packages.
So you were more looking for like response time and a specific customized package aside from like, were you looking at price or no?
I was because, and that was part of the reason why I needed someone who was flexible because I had some computers and I had some like old keyboards that, when I say old, they're like within the last 3 years. So they're not that old. So I didn't want to have to buy extra things, which ultimately brings down the cost if I didn't have to. But some companies were unwilling to kind of meet me there.
Interesting. Okay. And so far they've been pretty good?
They've been great. Yeah. And so kind. I love people, golden retriever syndrome, but
yeah,
kind people are my favorite kind of people.
Okay. Nice. That makes us happy that you're happy with Darkhorse.
Yeah. And then my other shout out is probably Wondrous. Just again, so proactive. If I need something done right away, they're on it. I've also learned to appreciate working with like different time zones, because sometimes I'm awake at a random time, but it's a totally appropriate time for the West Coast.
Yeah, it's true.
It's so nice.
Interesting. Okay. So Wondrous so those are the three. Then if you were to give me, which ones did not work or gel well with you guys?
I can't even tell you what their like total like full name is, but I would say be careful with companies that like are like OSHA or like HIPAA specific and try to sell you like, we're going to make you OSHA compliant. Because I did something like that with HIPAA and they like kind of left me hanging. So then I had to go with somebody else after I made a financial investment in them. But I don't even remember their full name because I was so turned off. I'd have to like look up my emails.
Can people reach out to you if they want to ask?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. Yeah, please do. Because I felt like they said, hey, like we'll help you with your HIPAA manual. We'll do all these things. And then when the moment came, it was like, we did the videos and I'm like, where's the manual? And they're like, oh, well, that has a different fee associated with it.
Okay. Gotcha.
I'm like, that's not what we talked about, but okay. I see
did
what
they take your money
there.
Still? They didn't give you anything back?
Yeah, no. So yeah, not okay. But
I don't think that's not them gelling with you. That's just, you know what I mean? They were not good.
Bad company.
Yeah, that was just not
so much so that I repressed their name, but I will look it up for someone. Now I'm using, they're called Smart Training and they've been great. We just had like a mock OSHA site visit with them so they could see if we were compliant or not. And we were,
Nice.
But they can give us ideas on like, oh, spruce this up and like, oh, they'll ask you this. So it's nice.
Okay, awesome. And then right now, how many new patients are you getting monthly?
So, we've been open 1 month, but in December, we've had 39 new patients because everyone's new. And we were only open 2 days a week because I was working part-time as an associate. So that was only in like 17 days. So I was really happy with that. So far in January, being open 3 days a week, because Thursdays are more like meetings and admin and making sure everything's rolling. We've seen 46 new patients.
Wow, that's really good. Good job.
Yeah. Our goal is 50 for January. So we're almost there.
Yeah. We're like halfway. Not even, or are we? I don't even know. We're in the 18th.
A little past half, I guess. But
yeah. You'll it's going to be easy for you. You got it.
Yeah.
So then throughout this time, I guess from the moment you decided, like, I guess I'm going to have to do practice ownership. This is it. Till today, right now, what's been some of your biggest fails or struggles or pitfalls?
Yeah. I guess ultimately what all of the like biggest failures come down to is doubting myself. And not because I'm not capable, just because it's all so new. So I felt like I became like the expert in my craft. And now I'm wearing this hat of like business owner and boss that I've never been like trained in that. So sometimes I feel like I could do something better. And then I have to give myself some grace because I realize that it's new. And I started like, I wish I would have kept it here with me, but I have like a little book of mantras that I sometimes will write to myself because like, so one of them is like, others have done it, maybe just as capable or less capable than you. So like, you can do it too. Things like that, where just kind of remembering to give myself some grace in the process, because there's so many resources now that didn't exist even like 5 years ago, and people still figured it out. So I think it'll all be okay.
Yeah, I like that. Walk me through that, Milca. Walk me through that moment where you had to look down and say, others have done it. And what were you feeling? What was going on? What was happening to where you were like, I needed to see that?
My personality is very much like people pleasing, and I don't like letting people down. So I really want to show up and be the best dentist for my patients, the best boss and manager for my team. So usually when I have to look at that, it comes from a place of, could I have done something better? Or if I felt like I let someone down, or if I, like right now we're hiring and I want to make sure that, we also want to be profitable. So that balance of, we need another person to grow, but I also want to be in the green as soon as possible. Those are the moments where I'm like, okay, others have done it, so can you.
Yeah. Yeah, because I guess it can kind of feel like you're in a gray area where you're like, where's the connection? How do I make it from there to there? But you're right, others have done it. Interesting, yeah, that you're working on that, not to doubt yourself too much.
And learning to trust my gut, definitely been a big learning process. If I look back to Milca 2021, there's so many decisions that were like overwhelming. And now looking back, I kind of knew the answer from the beginning. I just maybe didn't have as much trust in myself as I'm learning to have now.
Like, what were some of those decisions?
Yeah, I would say some like vendors, and like even as like this building that we're in right now, when I signed the lease, it was grass. And that seemed daunting because everyone knows that construction has been kind of a big question mark. And I didn't know if that was a concern or something that I shouldn't do, but it's what felt right and made sense and comparable to other existing buildings. And it fit my vision the best in terms of, I need natural light. And I wanted a lot of parking for families. I'm the type of person that likes to be able to have plenty of parking. So I wanted to be able to offer that to my patients and their families too. So I went with my gut and we did it. And I love our space. Even as tired as I may be some days leaving, I'm always just so grateful and taken aback. We have the best sunset.
Yeah, you look back and you're like, my gosh, look at that. So you do have a beautiful location. It is really beautiful out there.
Thank you.
But okay, one of the last questions I wanted to ask you is, throughout this whole process, and if you can kind of look at it as a perspective of like bright-eyed, bushy Milca, right? And you're looking at her and you're like, oh, Milca, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
How has all this affected your personal life?
Yeah. Well, let's see. I feel like that's such a like multifaceted question because my personal life is like my family, but also like me, also like my relationship. So I would say, one, confidence. I am, as being the people pleasing person that I am, and I'm trying less to be. There have been moments in my life, maybe previously in my less jaded version of myself, where I would just be like, okay, well, I guess that's just the answer. It just is what it is. I'll just make do with that. Where now I'm like, no, that's not what I want. So please reconsider that. And I'll still say it very kindly, but I'm not just going to roll with it. And I am better at keeping other people accountable for the things they said they would do, where before I may have just, instead of keeping them accountable, just taken on myself, so that I'm like, oh, it needs to get done anyway, and they're not doing it, so I'll just do it. Or now I'm like, no, unfortunately, I'm going to need you to complete this by set date.
So having like the confidence to, I guess, speak up.
Yeah. And I think in my personal life, that looks like maybe if there's an event I don't want to go to, say no from the beginning.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I mean, it depends on how good the event is, right? Like if it's a fantastic event, you probably should go. But like the more you say no, the more you're able to say yes to many other things, right? But if you say yes to everything, you're really saying no to her. A ton of stuff. So it's really good. How has this affected it so much in the sense of like, oh, now I have more time at home, less time at home? What's happening at home? Right? Like, or maybe goals have changed and you're like, put that off for a while kind of thing.
Yeah, I would say it ebbs and flows. The first like month leading into opening, it was just like everything. It felt like I was like spinning on the plate. That was hard. But right now, I would say my priorities are, and I think also communicating my priorities to my loved ones. Like, it's not that I don't want to do something. It's just that right now, this is my priority. I think helps too. So like the office, I also am doing a half marathon next month, which it sounds scary to say out loud. But I have to prioritize my runs when I can as well. So sometimes that looks different for family outings too. And because I'm in my hometown, my family, immediate family, and my husband's family would love to see us all the time. So being able to set some boundaries there too.
Gotcha. Okay. So then letting that, because it is like social battery, right? Like it is true. Like you love to see your family, you love to see everybody, but sometimes you just want to be like, hey, we've watched Gilmore Girls 5 times already. Let's just watch it 6 times and let's just be, you know what I mean?
Just decompress a little bit.
Yeah. And that is something like I think not brings you back to reality, but like lets you know like we can do this. Right? The little things like that. I don't know, to me at least.
No, I agree. A full night's sleep, like you wake up the next day, you're ready to conquer the world. Like, great.
Okay, awesome. So then what advice do you have for anybody about to do a startup, thinking to do a startup, or maybe they're in the process of their build out, but have not opened yet?
I would say someone who's thinking about it, if you're thinking about it and you've been thinking about it for a while, do it. Like you can do it. There's plenty of resources. Ask for help. I asked so many questions and people were so grateful. Like I was so grateful for their answers that now I just want to pay it forward. So please reach out if I can help in any way. I'm happy to. I would hate like a dream deferred. I feel like that's one of like my biggest fears. I don't want to like look back and be like, oh, should have done this or should have done that. So I hear that a lot. I hear like people will reach out and say, oh, like, when did you decide to do this? And I'll share a little bit of my story. And they're like, oh man, I wanted to open an office 3 years ago and I still haven't. I'm like, what are you waiting for? Just do it. Like ask the right questions, meet the right people, just figure it out. You got it. And if someone's about to open, I would say get involved with your community. My community has been so supportive, from the general dentist to cupcake shops to there's no pediatric dentist in the town itself, but the neighboring towns have all reached out as well and like welcomed me in. And I think that I love the collaborative spirit, but I wouldn't have that if I hadn't put myself out there.
Yeah, awesome. Milca, thank you so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure. If anyone has any questions or concerns, where can they find you?
So on Instagram, I'm just at Dr. Milca, Milca. And then you can also message me at Pawsitive Pediatric Dentistry. Either way, just let me know. Happy to help. Like I said, I love people.
Awesome. So that's going to be in the show notes below. So if you want to reach out to Milca. And Milca, thank you so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.